country. And it is in line with that obligation, Mr. Speaker, sir, that this country had to rise to the occasion to be the lead country in, Mr. Speaker, sir, implementing the international obligation to provide a peacekeeping force to the nation of Haiti upon a request by the UN Security Council, but Mr. Speaker, sir, further, upon a formal request by the nation of Haiti to this country and the compliance with the processes. Mr. Speaker, sir, having confirmed that all the other necessary public consultations and participation have been complied with, Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee has met severally and received submissions from stakeholders, but foremost, Mr. Speaker, sir, from the Cabinet Secretary of Interior and National Administration, the Inspector General of the National Police, and affirmed, Mr. Speaker, sir, that this country has the capacity to deploy the police, the security that is required, Mr. Speaker, sir, as set out, Mr. Speaker, sir. And as I second this motion, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is important to underline that in the deployment of the 1,000 forces to Haiti, we shall deploy senior officers, including a mission commander, a chief of operations officer, a chief of staff, a logistics officer, 96 personnel, but most importantly, Mr. Speaker, sir, 655 constables who shall not only provide training and guidance and capacity building to the police in Haiti, but that will work with the police to ensure that the restoration of national peace in Haiti is undertaken. Mr. Speaker, sir, this House is alive to the fact that Haiti has a fair extraction of its citizenry from Africa. This House is also alive to the fact that Haiti has had a checkered history, not only, Mr. Speaker, sir, of coup d'etats, but also of sporadic violence. And it is in keeping with our obligation as a peace-loving country and in keeping with the experience that our police force has, Mr. Speaker, sir, that this country has agreed to be part of the international duty to ensure that we restore peace in Haiti. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am also alive to the fact that Haiti has a Francophone background, given its colonial history. But I'm also alive
Senator Morango.
to the
May the senator be heard in silence, please.
To the preparedness of our forces to undertake the very important duty of maintaining peace in Haiti, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee report was adopted with only a minority dissent from one member of the National Assembly. But that does not mean, Mr. Speaker, sir, that this report is not without support from all the members of the committee. I strongly second the report by the chair, Mr. Speaker, sir, and it is time, Mr. Speaker, sir, that this country is recognized as one of the lead countries in the community of nations in the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Boni, take your seat. Now, Senator Mazai, you may proceed to your seat, please. You are fairly busy this afternoon, Senator Mazai. Thank you. Now, honorable senators, before I propose the question, I had a pending ruling to deliver, so allow me to deliver that. Then we proceed with the question. Honorable senators, as you may recall, at the sitting of the Senate held on Tuesday, 14th November 2023, several senators rose on points of order pursuant to Standing Order 1051 to require the Senator for Nairobi City County, Senator Edwin Sifuna, to substantiate statements made in the course of debate. The utterances by Senator Edwin Sifuna MP were made while the Senator was making his contribution on the motion for the President's address to Parliament pursuant to Article 132(1)(c) and 247 of the Constitution. The particulars of the statements that Senator Sifuna was required to substantiate are as follows. A. Senator Mohamed Chute MP sought the intervention of the Speaker to require Senator Edwin Sifuna MP to substantiate the statement that, Mr. Speaker, sir, we were told about the question of subsidizing the price of fertilizers. Now it is public record that in fact some of these subsidized fertilizers came to this country as a donation from the government of Russia. B. Senator Dr. Boni Kalwale MP sought the intervention of the Speaker to require Senator Edwin Sifuna MP to substantiate the statement that, Mr. Speaker, sir, the President also announced that in June of this year, his administration would employ 103 community health promoters, CHPs. We saw him flagging off distribution of 100,000 kits to be used by those people. The fact of the matter is that is not true. In fact, counties are supposed to identify the people to be recruited as CHPs, and that progress is ongoing. You cannot claim something has happened, yet it has not happened, just to massage the numbers and appear like your government is working. C. Senator Veronica Maina MP saw the intervention of the Speaker to require Senator Edwin Sifuna MP to substantiate the statement that we were told that the President has set up Wi-Fi hotspots across the country, including here in Nairobi County, and markets such as Muthurwa and City Market. You will see that, in fact, those things do not work. And C, secondly, the Central Bank of Kenya data allows, the Central Bank of Kenya CBK data shows that the default rate of the loans borrowed under the Hustler Fund is higher than the ones of the commercial banks. Now, Honorable Senator, Standing Order 1051 states as follows: a senator shall be responsible for the accuracy of any facts that the senator alleges to be true and may be required to substantiate any facts instantly. Further, Standing Order 1052 states as follows: if a senator has sufficient reason to convince the Speaker that the senator is unable to substantiate the allegation instantly, the Speaker shall require the senator to substantiate the allegations not later than the next sitting day, failure to which the senator shall be deemed to be disorderly within the meaning of Standing Order 121, unless the senator withdraws the allegations and gives a suitable apology. Senator Edwin Sifuna was not able to substantiate his statements as required pursuant to Standing Order 1051, and subsequently requested to be allowed by the Speaker to provide the evidence the next sitting day in accordance with the Standing Order 1052. Having acceded to the request, the Speaker directed that the senator substantiate his allegations at the next sitting day. On Wednesday, 15th November 2023, I consequently invited Senator Edwin Sifuna MP to table the evidence in support of his statements made on Tuesday, 14th November 2023, pursuant to Standing Order 1052. Thereupon, having no evidence to substantiate the point of order by Senator Veronica Maina with respect to the Wi-Fi hotspots across the country, Senator Edwin Sifuna withdrew the statement and offered an apology to the Senate. The senator thereafter proceeded to table documents containing the evidence on the following: A, the point of order raised by Senator Mohamed Chute MP concerning the subsidized fertilizer, and B, the point of order raised by Senator Veronica Maina MP concerning the default rate for the loans borrowed under the Hustler Fund. Honorable Senators, following the tabling of evidence by Senator Edwin Sifuna, I undertook to review the documents and give a ruling on the matter, as it was not practical to make a determination then. As you're aware, any document or evidence tabled by a senator in this House as evidence for substantiation of any allegations made under Standing Order 105 must pass a certain threshold. The obligation on the Speaker in this matter was to review the documents tabled by Senator Edwin Sifuna MP, make a determination on the admissibility, further establish whether the documents, if admissible, provide evidence of the claims made, and to finally make a determination whether accordingly the threshold under Standing Order 105 has been met. Consequently, in undertaking the foregoing assessment, the parameters that have guided the Speaker in the present matter are as follows. A, is the evidence tabled from a source which by parliamentary practice is official and admissible. And two, if the answer to A is in the affirmative, does the evidence relate and verify the claim that was made and for which substantiation was required? Now, honorable senators, with respect to the first parameter, which is whether the evidence provided is from a source which by parliamentary practice is official and admissible, a review of the contents of the documents provided by Senator Sifuna indicates that the senator tabled the following documents. One, a copy of an image of a post on the Russian embassy in Kenya's social media X, formerly Twitter, dated 3rd August 2023, and a copy of an article from the Standard newspaper dated 1st June 2023, indicating that the government of Kenya had received 34 tons of fertilizer from the Russian government. Two, a copy of an undated article from the Star newspaper indicating that the average rate of birth rate in Kenya had hit an almost 2 decades high of 15%. And three, a copy of an article from the Business Daily newspaper dated 22nd August 2023, indicating that the Hustler Fund defaults had reached 3 billion in 9 months. And lastly, the annual report and financial statement of Central Bank of Kenya for the financial year 2022-2023. Now, honorable senators, as you are aware, established practice in Parliament of Kenya and in comparative jurisdictions is that extracts from newspapers may not be tabled as evidence for substantiation of claims. This is buttressed at Standing Orders 55.1, which in respect to statements provide, and I quote, the facts on which a request for statements is based may be set briefly, but extracts from newspaper and other media or quotations from speeches shall not be admissible. Consequently, and in accordance with the established parliamentary practice, the newspaper extracts from the Standard, the Star, and the Business Daily newspapers as tabled by Senator Edwin Sifuna MP are inadmissible for purposes of substantiating any claim made. The other document tabled was a copy of an image of a post on the Russian embassy in Kenya's social media platform X, formerly Twitter. This document appears to be an image taken of the verified official X account of the Russian embassy in Kenya, posted at 8:07 hours on the 3rd of August 2023. There is no evidence to suggest the contrary, and this document is accordingly admissible. The final document tabled was the annual report on financial statements of Central Bank of Kenya for the financial year 2020-2023. This is an official publication of a government agency and is therefore admissible. Honorable Senators, the second parameter is whether the evidence table relates to and verifies the claim that was made and for which substantiation was required. With respect to the copy of an image of a post on the Russian embassy in Kenya's social media platform X, the senator tabled this document seeking to substantiate the following statement. Mr. Speaker, sir, we were told about the question of subsidizing the price of fertilizers. Now it is public record that in fact some of these subsidized fertilizers came to this country as a donation from the government of Russia. The post from the Russian embassy X platform states as follows: more than 34 tons of fertilizer donated to Kenya by the Russian Uralkali group are now being reformulated to produce 100,000 and 200 tons of fertilizer. This will help Kenya a lot to get a good harvest this year. Now, honorable senators, while it is clear that there was a donation of fertilizer from the Russian government to Kenya, no nexus is shown between that donation referred to and the subsidized fertilizer as alleged by Senator Sifuna. To meet the test of substantiation, Senator Sifuna needed to show the link between the donation and the subsidized fertilizer. He has not. The final document tabled was the annual report and financial statement of the Central Bank of Kenya for financial year 2020-2023. This document indicates the financial position and performance of the banking industry in Kenya. It was presumably presented to buttress the contents of the newspaper articles in support of the allegation that the default rate of the Hustler Fund was higher than that of the commercial banks. Needless to say, the purported substantiation by use of newspaper articles having been disallowed, this supporting document similarly collapses. In any case, I see no connection, no reference made to the Hustler Fund, and any comparison between the Hustler Fund and the regular commercial lenders in the central bank report. Honorable Senators, accordingly, I find and rule as follows. In respect of the challenge by Senator Mohamed Chute, MP, to substantiate the claim relating to fertilizer, Senator Eden Sifuna, MP, has tabled evidence to show that indeed some fertilizer was donated to this country, but has failed to establish any link between that donation and the subsidized fertilizer. Therefore, this claim has not been substantiated. In respect to the challenge by Dr. Boni Halwale, MP, to substantiate the claim that it is not true that the government had employed one of three community health promoters, CHPS, Senator Sifuna did not table any evidence or provide any explanation to substantiate this claim as was required. The claim was accordingly not substantiated. In respect to the challenge by Senator Veronica Maina, MP, to substantiate the statement that default rates of the loans borrowed under the Hustler Fund are higher than the ones of the commercial banks, again, Senator Sifuna did not table evidence to support this claim. The claim was accordingly not substantiated. Now, Honorable Senators, following the tabling of the documents by Senator Eden Sifuna, MP, and in accordance with my findings in relation to the admissibility or otherwise of these documents, and the failure to meet the threshold of substantiation in respect to the claims made, I now require Senator Eden Sifuna, pursuant to Standing Order 1052, to withdraw and apologize in respect of the claims that, 1, some of the subsidized fertilizer came into the country as a donation from the government of Russia. B, it was not true that the government had employed 103 community health promoters, CPH. And finally, the default rates of the loans borrowed under the Hustler Fund are higher than the ones of the commercial banks. I proceed to caution, as provided in Standing Order 1052, that failure to withdraw and apologize will result in Senator Eden Sifuna being deemed to be disorderly within the meaning of Standing Order 121. Senator Sifuna. Senator Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, this is a hill that I am determined to die on. My conviction is right. My conscience is clear. I refuse to withdraw or apologize for any of those sentiments because they are the truth. And Mr. Speaker, allow me to see myself out in lines of Standing Order 121 2B. You don't need to bother yourself. I'll just walk out.
Kindly proceed.
Thank you, sir.
Order, Honorable Senators. Now I proceed to propose the question. What is your point of clarification, Senator?
Thank you so much, Speaker, for allowing me an opportunity just to understand a little bit further from your communication. I believe you referenced Standing Order 55 in terms of the types of evidence that is admissible, and you mentioned media, extract, and the like, and you also mentioned speeches, I believe. If that is correct, Speaker, and if I heard you correctly, the clarification I seek from you is anchored on the debate that's been happening on the 2 days. There are some honorable members who used the speech, the data that was found in the speech that was being debated as part of their submissions and part of their evidence and to support the debate. And those were admissible even after a couple of points of order. And I wondered what types of speeches, if you can clarify for me, Speaker, are admissible and what types of speeches are not admissible. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Asige. Of course, the speech that was being debated here is the speech that was done in Parliament. And therefore, there is no way we could have proceeded with the motion without the speech. The speeches that are being contemplated under our standing order are speeches that are made outside the floor of this House. Speeches that are made in social gatherings, that have no bearing whatsoever with the proceedings of the House. For example, if this weekend you proceed to your rural home and there's a social gathering and somebody rises to make a speech, you cannot then take that speech or you cannot quote that speech as evidence to buttress your claim before this House. That is the distinction between the speech that we are debating and the speeches that are inadmissible before this House. So allow me to, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I would appreciate if you could clarify. Under Standing Order number 122, gross disorderly conduct, 1E deliberately gives false information to the Senate. And then, Mr. Speaker, sir, 122(2). If indeed, as you have ruled, it looks like the information that the Senator for Nairobi gave us, and from his language and attitude, it was deliberate, was not factual. Mr. Speaker, it therefore invites you under this standing order to clarify whether in asking the Senator to leave the chamber, you are enforcing 122(2)(a), or you are enforcing 122(2)(b.
Senator Boni, the punishment for failure to substantiate is contained in Standing Order 105(2). That is where the punishment is prescribed for a senator who fails to substantiate. And it reads, if a senator has sufficient reason to convince the Speaker that the Senate is unable to substantiate the allegation instantly, the Speaker shall require that such senator substantiate the allegations not later than the next sitting day, failure to which the senator shall be deemed to be disorderly within the meaning of Standing Order 121, not 122, 121, unless the senator withdraws the allegations and gives a suitable apology if the senator so requires. So the punishment for failure to substantiate is prescribed under Standing Order 105. And that is, you go to Standing Order 121(2), where the senator may caution or order the senator to withdraw from the presence of the Senate for the remainder of the day's sitting. That is the punishment for unable to substantiate. And that is exactly the punishment that I've meted against Senator Sifuna. He had to withdraw for the remainder of today's sitting as prescribed, as pursuant to Standing Order 105(2), read together with 121(2)(b). Lack of substantiation is not a gross disorderly conduct to attract a punishment under Standing Order 122. Yes, Senator Wambua.
Speaker, I really thank you for that clarification. And further to your clarification, Mr. Speaker, for the record, because it's on record, the Speaker has ruled that yes, there was a donation of 34 metric tons of fertilizer from Russia. And that's a reference that Senator Sifuna made. And the Speaker has said that the only difference between what he said and what he was asked to substantiate is that he could not create a nexus between that donation and the fertilizer that was subsidized. So, Senator Alwale, as you itch to visit a lot more painful punishment on Sifuna, be informed. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, allow me to propose the question that, taking into consideration the recommendations of the joint report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security of the National Assembly and the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations of the Senate, regarding the proposed deployment of officers of the National Police Service to the Multinational Security Support MSS mission for Haiti, laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 15 November 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 248A of the Constitution, the Senate approves the deployment of officers of the National Police Service to the Multinational Security Support MSS mission for Haiti. Honorable Senators, you may now proceed to make your intervention. What is your point of order? Under Senator Methu, the only time a senator rises on a point of order is when another senator is on their feet. So you may not have the platform on a point of order.
Speaker, this is on a matter of procedure. If I was to raise this point of order when another senator is already on his feet, then it would be...
So you're raising on a matter of procedure? Or
yes, Standing Order 111 on limitation of debate, Honorable Speaker, owing to the number of senators who want to comment on this particular motion, and you've seen the kind of business that we have today is very heavy, Honorable Speaker, I would wish to propose that we limit debate on this particular motion to 3 minutes per senator. I ask my brother Samson Cherargei, Senator, to second.
Your motion has no seconder. Now, honorable senators, a motion has been proposed that such a motion does not attract debate really. I will straight away proceed to put the question, which is that time be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, per senator standing to speak on this particular matter. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of the contrary opinion say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. Senator Osotsi.
Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I want to say I oppose this motion for various reasons. Mr. Speaker, this motion is pegged on Article 240 of the Constitution, which says that the National Security Council, that is 248, the National Security Council may, with the approval of Parliament, B, approve the deployment of foreign forces, forces. Mr. Speaker, I think the committee conveniently did not consider the provision of Article 241(2), which defines the various categories of defense forces and says that the defense forces consist of the Kenya Army, the Kenya Air Force, the Kenya Navy. In this case, Mr. Speaker, the National Police Service is not mentioned. So, if you look at the constitutionality of this motion, it is unconstitutional. And I want to beg my colleagues, you may be rushing to approve this motion because of political interest. But we have lived in this country to know.
What is your point of order, Senator Cheriot?
Mr. Speaker, did you hear Senator Osotsi cast aspersion on the conduct of colleague senators?
Under what standing order?
Standing Order 101, let me just be sure. Contents of speech, Mr. Speaker, 101(4). No senator shall impute improper motive to any senator or to member of the National Assembly, except on specific substantive motion of which at least 3 days notice has to be given, calling into question the conduct. Did you hear Senator Osotsi say that, I know the senators are in a rush to approve this motion because of political considerations? Mr. Speaker, that is grossly inaccurate, and it pains the senators who are even yet first to contribute on this motion and is not sure whether they will support or oppose in bad light, Mr. Speaker. Would you kindly find him to be out of order and ask him to withdraw and apologize to his colleagues?
Senator Osotsi, your statement in this regard is in breach of Standing Order 101-4, and therefore
Mr. Speaker.
Proceed to withdraw that particular.
Mr. Speaker, this is a house of debate. We
Senator
have
Osotsi,
listened to me talk.
Senator Osotsi, you are imputing improper motive, which is a breach
Mr.
of
Speaker,
Standing
I
Order
think if
101.
the Hansard will bear me witness. I said, and I want to challenge the production of the Hansard. I said,
Secretariat, can I have the Hansard here?
Some of us could be, may be supporting this motion.
Can I have the Hansard, please?
And Mr. Speaker, this House should be guided by the Constitution. Article 117(1) is very clear that a House of Parliament must exercise freedom of speech. We are not going to be gagged in this House. Every time we stand up to debate, we are being told to substantiate on everything. Mr. Speaker, I've been elected by the people of Vihiga
Senator Osotsi.
to come and debate freely in this House.
Order,
not to be
order,
gagged.
senators. Order, honorable senators. Order, honorable senators. Senator Osotsi, you do not appear in the list of nominated senators. You need not remind people of an obvious thing. Of course you're elected. A point of order has been raised. I need to rule on it. And for me to rule on it, I need to see the Hansard. Because what Senator Cheriot said, you're saying those are not your words. So to get exactly what he said, I have to refer to the Hansard. And that is exactly what I'm waiting to see. Okay, I will allow you to proceed. In the next 1 hour, the Hansard will be made available, and I will go back to we shall revisit the point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I don't run away from issues. I've been known for that. I'll confront the issues. Mr. Speaker, I will say that this motion is unconstitutional because the committee conveniently did not look at the provisions of Article 241(2) that list down the forces in this country. And the police, the National Police Service is not listed as one of the services, Mr. Speaker. So under what provision of the Constitution is this motion being brought before us to pass, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, secondly, I have looked at the list of countries that are sending troops to Haiti. In Africa, the list reads like failed states: Burundi, Chad, and Senegal. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a serious country in this continent. There is a serious country.
Senator
Mr. Speaker, can you protect me from
allow the senator to make his contribution in silence, please.
Can you protect me from my friend Cheriot? Mr. Speaker, we cannot put ourselves among the failed states that we are now going to protect another failed state. Mr. Speaker, even one question that you need to ask: what is this moral obligation?
Senator Sigay. Senator Sigay.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. And from the very onset, I want to support the motion by the Honorable Senator Cheptumo. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a family of nations, and the effort that particular motion is seeking to do is to show the international community and the global world that we play the league of other nations. And by sending this particular team, Mr. Speaker, by supporting this motion, we are supporting the commitment that this nation has made, not only to the African nation, but to the world. And Mr. Speaker, Kenya sits as a member of the United Nations. We are all aware that we are holding and we are hosting the United Nations within the capital city of Kenya, that is Nairobi. And in this case, Mr. Speaker, I am aware that previously Kenya has sat in the UN Security Council. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, in 1973 and 1974, in 1997 and 1998, and in the year 2021, where we assumed the presidency of the United Nations Security Council for a rotational period. Mr. Speaker, this is the period when Kenya did make this statement and the commitment to support the sending of its support to Haiti. And we have been given the statistics by the Honorable Cheptumo on the benefits that this country is going to have by supporting this mission. One of which, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that Kenya is going to be the lead nation in that mission. Being the lead nation is showing the way for the African community, for the African countries in that particular mission. And the number of officers who are going to be sent, Mr. Speaker, are our brothers and sisters who are not only going to also experience a new world out there, but will offer the training and support, both in terms of capacity building and ultimately supporting the city or the people of Haiti in building their country to a better nation. Mr. Speaker, it is not lost that this is a mission and this is a commitment that this country has made, and it is a show of solidarity with the rest of the members of the United Nations, and this is one of the ways with which we will expand the global name and the global status of this country in the rest of the family of nations. Mr. Speaker, I truly support this and encourage this House to ensure that in the shortest time possible, this mission.
Senator Mbwa.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity to also make a contribution to this motion, and request my colleagues led by the majority leader to just allow members to debate. The majority will carry the day and will be bound by the decision of that House. Mr. Speaker, those of us who have some little understanding of the operations of the United Nations peacekeeping missions, we know that, Mr. Speaker, Chapter 7 of the UN Charter on Peacekeeping is the harshest of all the chapters. In fact, under Chapter 7, the peacekeeping troops that are deployed are allowed to use military force to enforce peace and order. In real sense, they are actually combatants, as opposed to a deployment under Chapter 4, Chapter 6, we should allow free and smooth passage of human beings, of food, of services for victims of the conflict. The Speaker, what we are doing by passing this motion is deploying our officers from the National Police Service to go and do battle in Haiti. The assessment mission that we sent to Haiti, Mr. Speaker, before this deployment was met with serious, open aggression by civil society groups and other social movements in Haiti, who said, do not send your troops here We want to deal with our problems in-house. Mr. Speaker, it is okay and it is true to say that the Kenyan government will not spend any money in this deployment. The Kenyan government is spending a lot more than money in this deployment. The Kenyan government is sending our officers to a battlefield where other states in the Kenyan League, Mr. Speaker, from the UN, have stayed off. In fact, it will be remembered, Mr. Speaker, that from August, early August to date, the United States of America and the UN headquarters in New York have really been pushing member states of the UN to contribute troops to go to Haiti. It is us, Mr. Speaker, and that's why I was asking the question that I was asking to the mover of the motion. It is us as a nation that wrote and requested to be allowed to be the leaders of the troops that will be contributed to Haiti. Mr. Speaker, for the love that I have for our police service, our young men in the police service, Mr. Speaker, I do oppose this motion.
Speaker, did you hear the Honorable Senator Wambua saying that Kenya requested? I'm standing under Order 105 to challenge him to table that letter of request, because to my knowledge, Mr. Speaker, it was the other way round. Kenya, because of its exemplary record in peacekeeping missions, has been requested to lead this particular mission. So is he in order? And if he doesn't have, then he should withdraw that information.
Senator Wambua, can you proceed to substantiate?
Mr. Speaker, in a different situation, you would have ruled that the senator has already concluded his debate. So, but because you have asked me to substantiate, Mr. Speaker, I will say those are just semantics. Whether we requested or we did not request, the fact is we are sending our men and women into the battlefield. As a Speaker, for the comfort of Senator Mogatana, my neighbor, I withdraw the statement on the request. That is not to say we did not request.
Senator Wambua, you basically haven't withdrawn that statement, if I got you correctly. So just proceed with the draw, we make progress.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw and duly apologize to Senator Mugata.
Senator Chiranke.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I rise to support this motion. As it has been stated before, this is an honor to this great country and in confidence of our national security apparatus. Mr. Speaker, I want to correct a misnomer that was being advanced, that national security organs and National Security Council, the National Police Service is part of it, Mr. Speaker. The Director General of the Inspector General of the Police, among others, Mr. Speaker, participate, and it has been recognized under Article 239. Mr. Speaker, therefore, this matter that was brought before the House is properly and it is constitutional, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, Kenya has been known to be one of the best peacekeeping. This is not the first time that Kenya we are doing peacekeeping missions. And we have had an explanatory report, Mr. Speaker. We have done in Amazon, we were in Bosnia, among other countries, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this has brought a very respect across, Mr. Speaker, as a nation, under United Nations, as a respected League of Nations, Mr. Speaker, Senator, we must be part of bringing peace across the country. Yes.
Senator Wambua would like to inform you. Would you allow him?
No, for today, I decline respectfully. Mr. Speaker, so that I make use of my time, Mr. Speaker, secondly, I want to appeal to the Kenyan government and Haiti. Mr. Speaker, the reason we are going to Haiti is because they are also blacks like us. As the song by Busy Signal, Free Up. He says Malcolm X is black. Haitians are black. Kenyans are black. And that is what the Free Up song, Haiti is black, by the busy signal, Mr. Speaker, on the song called Free Up. So we are going to free up, Mr. Speaker, more fire. We are going to free up Haiti, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the other aspect, on the issue of compensation, I want to appeal that whenever, in case a fatality will happen, the government and the United Nations must take up provision of dependents and payment of schools fees if 1 or 2 soldiers, unfortunately, we lose some of them, Mr. Speaker. Number 2, on medical care, I want to propose, should our officers get injured in line of duty, they must be taken to medical care in US veteran hospitals so that they can ensure they get quality medical care finally, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is an important motion. The national security. Mr. Speaker, this is an honor. We should be proud as a country that we have been called to lead from front, Mr. Speaker. I don't know why our colleagues from the other side want to lead from behind, Mr. Speaker. The Bible says we are going to be the heads in Deuteronomy chapter 28, but not the tails. I don't know which pride do we take as a country to lead from behind. We should lead from front, Mr. Speaker, and the League of Nations has called the country to lead, Mr. Speaker. I want to appeal that our soldiers, as they go, and this is not the ordinary AP officers who fight Changa in the villages. They are parliamentary, Mr. Speaker. I support the motion.
Senator Muma Catherine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose this motion for this reason. Mr. Speaker, this deployment is unconstitutional. That's exactly what I'm going to demonstrate. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya at Article 241 talks about the defense forces, and the defense forces do not include our police service. Mr. Speaker, under Article 240, it is contemplated that Kenya can deploy forces for external purposes. It does not mention that we can deploy the services for external purposes. Mr. Speaker, I have also read the Police Service Act, and I have looked at the functions of the police in the Police Service Act. Mr. Speaker, the functions of the police under the Police Service Act do not include carrying out work that is outside of Kenya. It provides for that internal security. It also provides for emergency being deployed for emergency purposes. It also provides that these forces, the services may be deployed in the defense of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I have read the UN Charter, Article 43 and Article 45. I think the motion was wrong, or the motion seconder was wrong to make reference to Article 45 of the UN Charter. The Article 45 of the UN Charter requires that state parties shall make available air forces contingencies to assist. It does not contemplate that police services will be provided. Now, assuming that this will be ignored and the services will be provided, Mr. Speaker, the detail in terms of, we have not been told which units are being deployed. Is it GSU? Is it which one? We've not been told whether they are being trained together. We have not been, I think my 3 minutes are not over, but I guess I'll just proceed and finish. I put on the clock and I can see it's gone. Mr. Speaker, this motion has not brought clarity on exactly who's being deployed, and if you see whoever is supposed to lead and to deputize are of the same.
Senator Nderitu John Kinyo.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipa fursa hii. Bwana Spika, Kenya ni mmoja wa mwanachama wa Umoja wa Mataifa, Bwana Spika. Na Bwana Spika, tunapaswa kusema wazi na kusema vizuri ikiwa Kenya ni mwanachama Umoja wa Mataifa, Bwana Spika. Na vile vile Bwana Spika, kamati ya usalama ya Umoja wa Mataifa wakaketi na kusema ya kwamba wale ambao wana ujuzi, uzoefu na uwezo wa kuongoza katika nchi ya Haiti ni Kenya, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, badala ya vile ninavyosikia ndugu zangu wa upande wa upinzani wakisema ya kwamba tunapaswa kupinga, wanapaswa kupongeza askari polisi wa nchi ya Kenya, Bwana Spika, kwa kuteuliwa na kuambiwa wao ndio watakaoongoza kwa sababu wana uzoefu na ujuzi, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, kabla hata sisi kupitisha mswada huu, Bwana Spika, nimekuwa nikipigiwa, Bwana Spika, na askari polisi ambao wana uzoefu, Bwana Spika, wanasema wanangoja, Bwana Spika, tupitishe mswada huu, Bwana Spika, ndiposa wizara ya masuala ya mambo ya ndani, Bwana Spika, waweze kuwatuma waende kufanya ile kazi, Bwana Spika, ambao wanaijua zaidi. Bwana Spika, hawa askari wanaofanya hizi simu wanazopiga, Bwana Spika, ni kwa sababu wameona, Bwana Spika, ndugu zetu askari ambao wameenda katika
Eddie, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I rise under the point of order number 105, under statement of fact. And combined with point of order number 101, which is imputing improper motive, and also discourages us from discussing people in this house. Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the senator for Laikipia to stand in this house and tell us that there are some calls from some policemen who have called him so desperate to go and work in Haiti, Mr. Speaker, without giving us the name of these policemen, without giving us the real cause of these policemen? Because, Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious task where people are going to leave their children to go to this mission. People are going to leave their wives to go to this mission. People are going to leave their families to go to this mission, Mr. Speaker, and they could as well also die, because people are dying in that area because of attacks, Mr. Speaker. If you're going to claim that there's a police officers who have called you personally and are telling us in this hour that that's a matter that is enough to substantiate to justify why you're going to that place, give us the name of those police officers, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Eddie, I actually rule you out of order. The fact that there are reference to several phone calls or otherwise does not mean. Proceed, Senator King.
Asanti Bwana Spika kwa kunikinga kutokana na masuala ambayo Bwana Spika umeona si nyeti, Bwana Spika. Askari polisi wanaweza wakapigia mtu yote simu, Bwana Spika. Si mambo ya hiti peke yake, Bwana Spika. Huwa wananipigia simu hata wakati, Bwana Spika, hata wakati watu wanashambuliwa na wezi wa mifugo. Wananipigia simu, Bwana Spika, kama seneta wao, Bwana Spika. Na hili si jambo ngeni, Bwana Spika, kwa sababu kuna askari wengi ambao, Bwana Spika, nataka kusema ya kwamba jumba hili kazi yake kuu, Bwana Spika, ni kuidhinisha, alafu nayo wizara, Bwana Spika, iweze. Bwana Spika, nadhani muda wangu ungesimamishwa kwa sababu Senator Eddie, Bwana Spika.
Proceed, you are wasting much.
Bwana Spika, nataka kusema ya Bwana Spika, nasema ya kwamba ni vizuri, Bwana Spika, naunga mkono mswada huu, Bwana Spika, ndiposa ndugu zetu walioko Haiti, Bwana Spika, waweze kusaidiwa na ndugu askari polisi ambao wako na ujuzi na uzoefu, Bwana Spika, kwa sababu Haiti ni ndugu zetu, Bwana Spika, na ambao, Bwana Spika, wanahitaji huduma ya askari polisi wa Kenya ambao wamebombea katika kazi yao, Bwana Spika. Naunga mkono mswada huu na naomba ndugu zangu, Eddie najua ataunga mkono, lakini najua yeye analeta kejeli kwanza. Asante, Bwana Spika.
Senator Mwenye Haji Mohamed Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kupinga mswada wa kupelekwa kwa askari polisi kwa nchi ya Haiti. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia katiba katika kifungu cha 240 na 41, majeshi ni tofauti na askari polisi. Majeshi ya Kenya ni pamoja na jeshi la nchi kavu, jeshi la angani na jeshi la wanamaji katika kifungu cha 241. Mheshimiwa Spika, polisi wametajwa katika kifungu cha 243. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, kikatiba ni makosa kupeleka vikosi vya polisi katika nchi ya Haiti, ambayo nchi inajulikana kwa utovu wa usalama katika ulimwengu, na ni nchi ambayo tayari ni katika zile nchi ambazo zimefail kimaendeleo. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo la pili ambalo napinga ni kwamba katika sheria ya National Police Service katika kifungu cha 108, Police Service ni polisi ambao wanatulinda katika nchi ya Kenya. Polisi hawana majukumu ya kufanya ulinzi katika nchi za kigeni, Mheshimiwa Spika, isipokuwa mahali ambapo kuna ile ambayo yaitwa kwa Kiingereza reciprocation. Tunawapa polisi wetu na wao wanatupa wao kuja kujifunza kazi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Jambo la tatu, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba katika nchi yetu hivi sasa hatuna polisi wa kutosha. Yasikitisha Mheshimiwa Spika kwamba watu wanaendelea kuuawa katika sehemu mbalimbali nchini Kenya. Tukiangalia kule Baringo watu wanauliwa kiolela, tukiangalia sehemu za Turkana watu wanakufa kiolela, na sehemu nyingi za nchi yetu Mheshimiwa Spika zina utovu wa usalama. Kwa hivyo ni makosa kwamba sisi wenyewe hatujakuwa na polisi wa kutosha, na wale kidogo tunawapeleka nchi nyingine kwenda kuhudumu kwa muda ambao kwa hakika hautambuliki katika hii ripoti ambayo imeletwa hapa katika bunge, Mheshimiwa Spika. Jambo la tatu, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba sisi wenyewe kama Wakenya hatuna askari wa kutosha. Tukiangalia kama kule Mombasa utapata benki nyingine zinalindwa na askari wa jela. Askari jela wanasaidia ulinzi katika mji wa Mombasa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo ni kwamba polisi tulioko nao hawatoshi, na haiwezekani kwamba wale polisi kidogo watume kwenda nchi nyingine. Mheshimiwa Spika, mwisho, wengi wamesema hapa kwamba Kenya inatakana kuongoza kwa sababu swala lililoko hapa ni swala la kibinadamu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama ni ubinadamu ungeanza na nchi ya Palestina, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambapo nchi zote za ulimwengu zimelinda.
Senator Esther Okenyori.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity, and I want to support the motion that has actually been brought by the joint report. First, Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a very strategic and stabilizing factor as a state generally in our global politics. Kenya actually hosts one of the UN headquarters among the very few in Africa. Mr. Speaker, and the country Haiti we are talking about is even smaller than Senator Wambua's county. And for your information, while I acknowledge how intense the issues in Haiti are, because when I read in history, one of the most experienced military men, one Napoleon Bonaparte, actually conquered most areas in Europe, but when he went to Haiti, many of his soldiers were left dead and later had to sign a peace agreement. Mr. Speaker, it's a very great honor for our country to lead such peace initiatives in that country which most of its citizens share our African descent. And in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, I think Kenya is doing very well. For the few months our president has been in office, has put our country on international arena positively. When this news actually came, most of the world media was mentioning us across the continent. Mr. Speaker, it's one of our international obligations as a country to actually commit to peacekeeping initiatives. It's not happening for the first time. In the years 2000, our country has sent their troops to Sierra Leone, Liberia, under the stewardship of General Daniel Opande. So I do not understand why this should be causing alarm to our colleagues on the other side of the divide, because it's not a new thing in this country. Mr. Speaker, finally, as we actually observe whatever is happening in Haiti are humanitarian issues. We do not want to watch genocide happen. We do not want to lose young children. We do not want to lose women who are the most affected when war happens. I hope for the first time we are going to defeat the gangs, because this is a country that has just killed one president, not two presidents, 5 sitting presidents. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what the joint...
Senator Mogeni, Eric Okongo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the record, I want to go on record as opposing this motion. You know, Mr. Speaker, I want to speak to the police officers as my sisters and my brothers. And as a country, before we send citizens who have a registration bearing an identification as Kenyans, we need to think about their safety, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even if you wanted to try to travel to Haiti today as an ordinary citizen, Mr. Speaker, you will be warned that Haiti is a very unsafe country to go to. Why? As we speak even now, Mr. Speaker, people are being murdered, people are being kidnapped, there is war everywhere. There is no place that is safe in Haiti. And some of these things you learn. The Americans were warned not to go to Somalia in 1992, 93. They persisted, sent their soldiers to Somalia. They were butchered, killed like chicken. So when you are sending our brothers, sisters, our children to Haiti, think about their lives. Are they going to come back alive, or we are going to receive corpses at the airport, Mr. Speaker? It's a good thing, and nobody opposes, Mr. Speaker, sending people to UN missions. But don't send our children, our brothers, to countries where they will be murdered, Mr. Speaker. Haiti is unsafe. Even a president in Haiti is not safe. How can a police officer be safe? These are not even soldiers, Mr. Speaker. We are being extremely insensitive. Especially we, as the representatives of people. We are being very insensitive, Mr. Speaker. So we have to go on record, Mr. Speaker, and time will vindicate us. I'm strongly opposed to this idea of sending our children to Haiti. As we speak today, the only presence we have of America in Somalia is through the bombings they are doing there against the Al-Shabaabs and the likes. We should be leaders who think, reflect, and assist our president in making the right decisions, Mr. Speaker. We are not here just to rubber stamp what the executive wants. We are here to act in the best interest of the people we represent. The people who are going to Haiti could be my brother, it could be Galwale's brother, Mr. Speaker. Don't we think what exposure we are giving these Kenyans, Mr. Speaker? You know, Mr. Speaker, even healthcare does not work. Healthcare does not function in Haiti. These guys speak a language, I don't know, called Creole. It's not French, it's nothing. You can't even communicate, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm sad. I'm speaking as a very sad Kenyan this afternoon, that we are just making statements, but we don't care about the lives of these guys you are sending to Haiti. You can look at what has...
Your time is up, Senator Omogeni. Senator Karungo Thangwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I rise to support this motion, where we need to send our police officers to Haiti for peacekeeping. Mr. Speaker, for those who are saying it's against the law, I would want to refer them to the National Police Service Act, Section 10, which talks about the functions and powers of the Inspector General, Mr. Speaker. One of those powers is to promote cooperation with international police agencies. Mr. Speaker, when this happens, this kind of promotion, when other police agencies request for support, who are we to say no, Mr. Speaker? Because I do not really understand those who are saying that we should not send